Time and time again, we've seen Sekiro bosses be ranked, and with this game bestowing upon the world some of the highest quality boss fights in the history of mankind, it was no shocker that my fellow Sekirians wanted a piece of the pie. Today I come for my share, but I don't want the pie the old-fashioned way, no. Because as the thumbnail must have told you, there is a twist. For some insane reason, all the rankings assumed that us morons would take the easy road and try to kill these bosses the good old fashioned way, but some of us have such a penchant for pain and frustration. Say yes in the comments if you agree with me that we opted to take the path of a warrior. Or a fool. Depends on your perspective really. And by the warrior's path, I mean base vitality and posture. Now for the uninitiated, this might not seem like a big deal, but if you've never played the game on baseline parameters, let me tell you, don't. Not only does it make the game more challenging, which is mind-boggling considering the fact that it was already one of the toughest out there, it also adds layers of challenges which makes this impossible ordeal even more impossible, I guess. What challenges, you might ask? Well, keep watching to find out. And before anyone gives me links on how to cheese said bosses or tell me to mortal slash the shit out of my enemies, just don't. I'm talking combat the good old fashioned way, with the ever so trustworthy Kusabimaru and with pure skill. So with all that in mind, today I thought, hell, let's rank Sekiro main bosses, but with base HP and posture. Number 15, the folding screen monkeys. This is one of those puzzle bosses that you take some time figuring out, but after a couple of playthroughs and some hardcore memorization, one begins to cheese them involuntarily. I know, I said no cheesing, but technically this doesn't count because you literally remember the pattern and kill those damn monkeys. So no matter what parameters you're playing under, it is just as easy after you know exactly where you need to be. Next, number 14, the Divine Dragon. Universally acknowledged as one of the best gimmick bosses to ever come out of gaming, the Divine Dragon is a feast for your eyes. Not so much for your adrenaline receptors, unfortunately. Unless you're going for something inhuman like a no-hit run, well then you're because although you could run around and avoid any or all poison damage from the coughing old hags, it's still pretty tricky to escape the wrath of the almighty Divine Dragon. The swing of his blade is bound to catch you one or the other time. But I only took into account actual difficulty, so the Divine Dragon, to the surprise of absolutely no one, is second from the last. Now it's time for number 13, Gyobu Masataka Oniwa. In my estimation, Senor Oniwa is one of the best practice main bosses to ever exist. I've had my fair share of rage quitting this game in my early 50 or so hours, but it was Gyobu that showed me that I could indeed do it. Now that is by no stretch of the imagination saying he's easy, because the shouting Ashina extremist is quick and deadly. And from this point on, the base HP and vitality starts coming into play. Because not only can you be killed by just 2 strong enough attacks, Gyobu's moveset is one that's hard to detect and memorize. Especially if you have played the game with all your stats upgraded, because your posture will break one time too many, and shadows die twice become shadows die a million something times. Even after nearly 15 playthroughs, I remember Gyobu being a massive, truly massive pain in my ass. Next up, number 12, Emma the Gentle Blade. Let's make it clear there is nothing gentle about Emma's blade or her moves for that matter. This Dr. Chick is deceptively quick and apparently super strong because she slams Sekiro with just his arm like he weighs nothing. Her quick attacks and unique moveset make her one of the better warm-up bosses. But unfortunately, that's all she is, a warm-up for the big bad but old king who follows. Coming up next, it's number 11, Lady Butterfly. Another boss that could simply be caught in a time loop and killed off pretty easily. But there's a caveat. It's only possible if you dodge perfectly every single time. People who are well experienced might not think much of it, but once again, one mistimed deflect and 2 sweet chin musics later, Sekiro is all but dead. There's also the illusions, who can forget that? Remember those Mibu villagers that pop up when grandma snaps her fingers? Yeah, those annoying little shits can be a real distraction. Plus after that, the fact that she pretends to die once only to later reveal it was just another illusion, and you get a boss that requires more focus than some people realize. Up next, it's number 10, Genichiro Ashina. The staple boss of Sekiro is a beast. He's not the strongest, definitely not the quickest, or the most frustrating. What he is, however, is a gatekeeper. To get through this demon with a bow, you really have to do your due diligence. I still remember the first time I fought Genichiro because it was traumatizing and very educational. This boss fight needs it all: speed, skill, timing, and reflexes. And after dying an inhuman number of times and causing crop circles on my scalp, I finally beat Genichiro. But then months later, when I took on this monster with base stats, he suddenly turned out to be a totally different beast. To my horror, I was suddenly taking too many hits and dying over and over again. Not only was his posture recovering faster than Wolverine's wounds, this guy was barely taking any damage. And it was at this moment precisely when I realized just how tough Sekiro can be. And when you start losing this badly, even after multiple playthroughs, you really start asking yourself, what the hell have I been doing all along? Next, number 9, the Headless Ape. I used to love monkeys, but after being attacked and killed by so many of them in Sekiro, all I feel like eating is monkey soup. Or drinking it. Okay, jokes aside, the Headless Ape boss is one particularly difficult one simply because of the numbers advantage the gorilla has. It's like the creators thought,
one immortal, nearly unkillable, outright scary enemy isn't enough. Let's give them two.
And no, it wasn't pleasant whatsoever. The sheer amount of patience and skill you need to even survive is crazy. I mean, it's difficult enough with all the prayer beats and abilities, but on base stats? God damn it, was it hard or what? The first phase will really create a scenario that will catch you off guard. Because after you've dished out one death blow on the headless screaming bastard, tada! There's one more to go. And even his wife wants a piece of the action. And even though you can end the boss fight right then and there by just focusing on the headless gorilla, the brown one will simply not let you do it. I mean, that's the whole purpose of its existence. To turn your already difficult life into an outright nightmare. Easily the worst threesome I've ever been a part of. Okay, maybe the only threesome, but that doesn't mean it wasn't horrible. Now it's number 8, the Guardian Ape. This was really strange, but for some insane reason, one big monkey turned out to be way more difficult to deal with than two. And I blame the monkey's ungodly speed and toxic shit. Yeah, I know. But the Guardian Ape is terrifying in every sense of the word. Yes, his attacks can be parried, but it requires absolute focus and actual development of reflexes for this particular boss. And his slightly delayed sweep attack and jump and grab are absolute killers, cause they literally kill you in one swift move. And it's not like there's a lot of health to lose. There's barely any in fact, and even that fades away in the blink of an eye. Plus the minuscule amounts of damage your attacks do at base stats ensure you're stuck in the Bodhisattva Valley for ages. The second phase, however, is easier. Not easy, just easier than the first. All thanks to the massive amounts of damage inflicted by the spear's thrust and yank attack. But even with that bit of relief, the Guardian Ape is a nearly impossible task. Next, number 7, Great Shinobi Father. I honestly think they call him the Owl because he stays up all damn night. I mean, look at those under eye bags. You can fit the Kardashians' wardrobe in there. But my god, did he kick my ass or what? And even though it's not exactly exhausting or time consuming to kill him, it's still a mammoth task in itself. As the post-execution line state, this was a man in his prime. The sheer speed and unpredictability makes it a challenge unlike any. Plus add to that the fact that his moveset here is vastly different from the first time we fight him, and we have a recipe for disaster. Our disaster, that is. After that, it's number 6, Ishin Ashina. He might be older, weaker, and at the brink of death. But that doesn't mean he's not formidable anymore. And the old dog has a few new tricks up his sleeve. This version of Isshin really put forth just how much of a difference experience can make. Although he's just a shell of a warrior he used to be, the man still got it. And trust me when I say this, it took me ages to work around his fire draw and other flame based attacks, because as you know, absolutely every fire attack could potentially cause a status abnormality, and at base stats Isshin would strike you down with a one mind or an Ichimonji double in the blink of an eye. This old bastard was something else. Next, number 5, True Corrupted Monk. This might be a little controversial, but in my personal experience, the True Corrupted Monk is a far less daunting opponent than she seems to be initially. There are 3 main reasons. 1, the first phase is literally copy paste from the false monk, so you have tons of practice. 2, the second phase is all about running away from your enemies, so most guys should be fine. And 3, the last phase is all about sidestepping her toxic puke spray attack and then dishing out some punishment without getting greedy. Ugh, she does seem drunk out of her senses, no wonder she pukes. But with all that out of the way, those who know that the true monk is an absolute banger of a boss. And I mean that in the scariest, most frustrating way possible. Even if you use cheese tactics, the exhaustingly long amount of time and sheer focus required to take her out is inhuman. So even though the true monk sits at number 5, it's still a daunting task to overcome her. Next, number 4, the false corrupted monk. Long, drawn out, and taxing. This is my description of the false corrupted monk. And yes, this version of the monk is way tougher than the true one, and that's in spite of having only one phase, because not only is there a mile-long posture bar that recovers in milliseconds, there's also her unrelenting attacks that would turn the wolf into roadkill in seconds. And at base stats, it's assured that our posture breaks almost instantaneously, and base health means ta-ta. The cheese tactic really made sense to me after a couple hundred deaths. Because not only did she take my pride of being a good Sekiro player away, she also took all of my divine confetti and Ako and Yashiriku sugar. It took me days.
What? Days?
Days to get over this ghost-like woman. Well, story of my life, I guess. Next, number 3, the Great Shinobi Owl. Let me put this out there, it's almost impossible to kill him without cheesing him at base stats. Yeah, you can get him stuck in the coffin corner and cheese the shinobi out of him. Sorry YouTube, but as I said before, that's not what we are going for here. And although the first phase is just a ton of dodging and foolishly attempting to break his rather massive and unbreakable posture, the second phase is where the problem becomes too big to overcome, because this old son of a bitch starts throwing poison at us. And the poison doesn't dissipate, it creates good sized pockets of poisonous areas, which, as you guessed, inflicts poison damage when inside. And normally one could and probably would just use the green mossy gourd or some antidote powder, but in those couple of seconds, daddy will fuck you up. You can run away, try to use the healing gourd or even a sugar, but there are some massive problems. First, your posture, which breaks faster than a woman's patience, and second, status abnormality inflicts just enough vitality damage to end the bout right then and there. I implore everyone to tell me in the comments if you've tried this, aka tried frustrating yourself to death, because that is exactly what this is. Next, number 2, Isshin the Sword Saint. You thought beating Isshin in the regular manner was tough? Well, let me introduce you to a man that's as unkillable as they get. The sheer speed, skill, and the damage he inflicts are ungodly. And please don't make the foolish mistake of comparing yourself to Sekiro gods like Lil Aggie, Ongbal, and Seki, and thinking, I can do that, because you can't. No, you don't understand, you just can't. In a regular playthrough, it's rather simple. You need to observe the Sword Saint's moves, develop reflexes and countermeasures, and then execute said plan. But here, not only is each phase a long, arduous journey, there is no margin for error. I kid you not, when I was doing battle with Isshin at base stats, the monstrosity dawned upon me. I saw the real face of a vicious opponent toned down by the creators to give people hope. But it didn't take me long to realize just how outright scary Ishin truly is. I'd say this, if you want to experience the game the way Hidetaka Miyazaki intended it to be, play it at base stats, because only then will you realize that this is one of the toughest games ever made by a long mile. And now number 1, the Demon of Hatred. Aptly named so because hatred is what it generates. As far as us mortals are concerned, this is an utterly impossible task. If I knew that Sekiro would be such a big problem later on, I would have just... But to be honest, it's almost ironic that the man who saved the wolf's life and bestowed upon him long-lost shinobi knowledge turned out to be his most ferocious opponent. His moveset is so vastly damaging, even if you're parrying perfectly, hiding behind the umbrella, running away, attacking him head-on, begging God to get you through this no matter what you try, the Demon of Hatred is impossible to beat at base stats. One singular solitary move and not only is your posture in shambles, but also your health takes a drastic toll, and it's not like he stops. His attacks only become more and more vicious until you die again and again and again. It was truly a nightmare to sit through so many defeats, and I don't feel ashamed to admit that I never actually killed him. I had to rely on the cheese tactic every single time I tried it on base stats. Because at a point of time you start asking yourself, is it even worth the effort? So I cheesed the shinobi out of the sculptor turned rage monster and happily walked away. And as far as playing Sekiro at base stats is concerned, the Demon of Hatred is easily the toughest boss without any doubt. So that was my ranking of Sekiro bosses, but at base vitality and posture. If any fellow morons have attempted this almost mindless feat, do let me know. I won't even ask you how many times you died, so instead tell me in the comments what your list is. I know this channel is known for Assassin's Creed content, but hey, in case you didn't notice, it's gaming in depth, not Assassin's Creed in depth. So expect to see lists made on a lot of other games from now on. So that was it for today, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe, stay strong, and stay tuned. It's your boy VCX signing out.